See it again, but we'll see it through. Dangerous times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep them down in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world and keep the sky
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Great to have everybody here on a Tuesday morning. And I had planned to show you all a featherweight, and I was going to go into some of the deeper servicing of the featherweight. But I was working several hours this week on this GRAYBAR sewing machine. We don't see these very often. And I decided that I would go ahead and present this machine today and then focus on featherweight servicing this coming Saturday, unless my schedule changes. So watch for the featherweight feature on Saturday. But today you're going to be checking out a machine with me that very seldom does it pop on the scene. Matter of fact, it's only appeared maybe once on this channel. And it's a GRAYBAR sewing machine. And some of you may have never, ever, ever heard of this machine before. It's because they don't pop up very often. And by popping up, I mean that a lot of them have fallen into disrepair, and they run into wiring issues quite often on these machines. Give you an idea of what I was battling this week. This is the condition of the wiring that was on this machine. So it gives you an idea of what others may have encountered. And it's not a simple swap out the cord type thing. This wiring issue goes all the way through the motor casing and everything. So whatever type of insulation coating they used on their wiring back in the day for the GRAYBAR sewing machines, it just doesn't stand up. And the result is you run into all kinds of issues like my customer did. And you kind of lose faith and confidence in the machine, and you end up throwing it into a corner or maybe throwing it on the curb because you just can't sew with a machine like that, right? So the good news is all the wiring has been replaced on this machine. And I should make an introduction. This machine is owned by Don Sperl and his wife. And Don brought it back to me, or brought it to me, I should say, brought it to me back in June of this year. So just before, not too terribly long before my transition from the old workshop. And it kind of sat there, and I looked at that wiring. I knew what it was going to need. And I was like, I'll work on some other machines first. I'll work on some other machines before I goof around trying to get this one back on track. And finally, amid this transition now in the temporary workshop here in the Twin Cities, I looked at it again in the storage unit when Susie and I traveled back there to take care of meeting with some other customers. And I looked at it again. I thought, okay, all right, come back. to the temporary workshop, and then I spent many, many, many hours getting it back into shape. And this is actually designed to go in a table. Designed to go in a table. This is part of that wiring that was bad on it. And with this knee controller, it's several pieces that you have to take apart just to get to the contacts that are on the bottom of this casing. And so you have to take out the ceramic portion. You have to disassemble two pieces on the inside. You have to take out springs. And then finally you get to this, and then you're able to do the rewiring to get it back to a state where it's safe to use again. So I'm going to be using a knee control in this live stream today on top of the table to power this machine. And I will tell you this, and we've done this a couple of times before in other live streams where I've given you some motor nomenclature information and asked you to look it up on the internet to tell us what the amperage rating on this motor is. So I'm going to tell you on the back of this motor. Matter of fact, I'll see if I can show it to you. I'll kind of turn the machine a little bit, and we'll bring the camera just a little bit closer. Hoping we don't have any disconnect issues today. So you can see it's rated at 110 volts instead of 125. It's rated at 110, and then it's got a watt rating of 90. So 90 watts, 110 volts. And if you want to try to calculate using some of the online apps what the amperage of this machine is, that would be super cool. Tell us what the amperage rating is, and then we'll know how much power we're working with today on this GRAYBAR sewing machine. And I'm curious, does anyone know anything about the GRAYBAR sewing machine company? If anyone knows anything about the GRAYBAR sewing machine company, go ahead and share it in the live chat, and then I'll share what I found in my research. But it really is quite a cool machine. It's got a very flat matte finish. You can see it's got almost a flattened Godzilla type finish on it. So there's no polishing to do on this machine apart from the chromium plated pieces. And this is a rotary machine from the 1940s, but unlike the domestic sewing machine company that was also based out on the East Coast, like this company, this one is not silver plated. And when you look at the beautiful faceplate in that, you might initially be tempted to think that it's the same as the domestic sewing machine company that limited its production to only 20,000 units per year. The GRAYBAR was produced in much larger quantities, and so they used basic chromium coating on this machine instead of silver plating like the domestic. So yeah, go ahead and do some number crunching, look at some of those online apps, and then let me know what you find out as far as the amperage. And I'll go through and say some quick howdies to everybody. And I see from one of the last things in the live chat that Alex is like most people. Alex out in the great state of California has never heard of a GRAYBAR sewing machine before. And that's okay. Because like I said, they don't pop up on the radar very often, even with 1,000+ videos on this channel. I believe I've only shown a GRAYBAR one time because again, they fall into disrepair and people don't want to deal with it. I believe that this customer, Don, said that he went to 3 or 4 different type of sewing repair places with, with this. Let me show you again in case you joined us a little bit late. With this attached to the machine, you can see all the condition of the wiring. He walked into 3 or 4 different sewing places, and they were like, oh, we don't do that type of repair. We don't do that kind of repair when it's in that condition. And unlike some sewing machines, these are specialized plugs for this rotary machine, and you can't just go out and buy a replacement. So they were like, no, I think we'll pass on that. And then he reached out to me, and we were able to get it done for him. Probably about 8 hours of wiring on this machine, so quite a bit of attention that it needed. But this is the end of the plug, and if any of you are facing the same challenge, what I ended up doing, because it's a very specialized plug that goes in the back of the motor, it actually plugs into the back of the motor area just below it. I ended up using a Dremel with a cutting edge, and I actually cut the plug off, and then I used some smaller drill bits to drill all the way through the rubberized end, through the plug-in end, where the copper and brass fittings are in there. So I was able to drill right through the middle of them, and then eventually seat some new wiring in there, and then epoxy them in place, and then insulate them around the plug-in point. But it's a little bit complicated because you have to, if you cut too far in or too far back, you're going to damage the copper innards that are inside of there, and then the plug will be shot. So you have to be real careful if you try rewiring one of these, so you don't end up making it worse. So let's see what folks came up with. See if anybody got the amperage. I don't see anybody that did it, any of the amperage stuff on this machine. So I'll just tell you, if you're and actually I'll do it on my phone so you can see as well the little app that they use. Let's see if I can get it here. Converting watts into amperage.
According to Bostab, watts to amps using volts. Calculate the amperage. Divide the wattage by the voltage using the formula A equals WV.
That sounds pretty complicated, doesn't it? But we're going to simply, those two numbers, we've got 110, which is the volts. We've got 90, which is the watts. And we're going to divide the wattage by the voltage to get the amperage. So you're going to divide the wattage, which is 90, divide 90 by 110, and that'll give you the amperage for this machine. There are some machines that were made in the 1940s, especially these rotary ones, that will give you the voltage and they'll give you the wattage, but they don't give you an amperage like most motors. So you divide the wattage by the voltage, so 90 by 110, and that'll tell you what the amperage of this motor is. So if anybody wants to do that, let's see. Looks like Susie, do we calculate the amps to dividing the watt by the watts? So what we're going to do is I'll actually show you on a calculator. Let me see if I can do it real quick. Yeah, Susie, you're right. You're absolutely right. Let me just double check it. Yeah, so using a common calculator like this, using a common calculator, we know that it's 90 watts. So we're going to take 90 watts. We're going to divide it by the voltage, which is 110. So it's telling us that this motor, when we convert the watts and the volts to amperage, this motor is going to peak right around 0.8 amps, right around 0.8 amps. So it's a nice meaty motor. It's a nice meaty motor. I'll do that one more time to show you, because I know some of you are math challenged like I am. I do not, math and I do not groove together. We don't groove. So if you ever come across a machine and it gives you the voltage and it gives you the watts, and you want to know, well, what does that translate to the amperage? Just take the watts, which in this case is 90, divide it by 110. And it shows us that the motor is rated in amperage at about 0.81, 0.82 if you round it up, 0.82. So it's going to be a more powerful motor than a lot of the Singer machines that we've seen recently, including the 201-2, that is going to have a maximum motor size of 0.6. So this is going to be basically 0.2, almost almost like putting a Singer 201-2 and half of a featherweight, a Singer 201-2 and half of a featherweight together to equal the motor strength of this GRAYBAR rotary machine. So that's how you do it. It's really quite simple. Once you do it on the calculator, just punch the watts in, divide it by the volts. And some of you might be saying, well, maybe back then they were running off of 110, but aren't we running off of probably 125 now in most homes? The answer is we probably are. So let's see if it makes a significant difference. So we're still going to have 90 watts, 90 divided by, let's say 125. And interestingly, it's actually going to give us a lower rating if we punch up the voltage higher. If you do 125 volts instead of 110, it's actually going to give us a rating of only 0.7, which would be equal to a number of the Singer machines as far as a peak value. So that's kind of cool, isn't it? You'd almost expect with more voltage, but it's kind of like the European machines, isn't it? With the European machines, the higher the voltage goes between 230 volts and 250 volts, which is pretty common across the European footprint, the lower that amperage drops. So the higher the voltage, the lower the amperage. So it's actually to our benefit to calculate it with 110 volts instead of 125 because it actually lowers our amperage rating. I had not tried that before, so it's kind of surprising to me as well. But there you go. The higher the voltage, it pushes that amperage down because the voltage offsets the amperage. Just like I showed you on some of those featherweight motors that are designed to be in the European marketplace, their motors are only rated at 0.25 amps instead of 0.4 amps like most featherweight motors, but they're running them at a voltage that's about 2 times or more higher than the US market. So they need less amperage, should say they get less amperage because the voltage offsets it. Yeah, interesting. See, we always learn together, don't we? We learn things together, which is kind of cool. So for this mysterious company that a lot of people have never heard of before, the GRAYBAR Sewing Machine Company. And this is the machine right here, if you kind of look at it straight on. Again, it's got a really interesting kind of a chocolate matte finish that almost resembles a Godzilla finish, but it doesn't have that bumpiness to it. Maybe a little bit here. But it's just a real simple plain Jane, apart from the chromium pieces. It's just a real simple plain Jane type machine, like some of the Singer ones that are Godzilla finished as well. All right, I'm going to set this camera down. I'm going to try to limit how much I move it around. I was having trouble with getting it to connect today, so I don't want to throw us into a quandary of disconnecting it because I'm fumbling around with the camera too much. So a little bit about the GRAYBAR. So the GRAYBAR Sewing Machine Company was not really a sewing machine company at all. And this might be on your midterm test, so take good notes, right? Take good notes. All right. So what I mean by the GRAYBAR Sewing Machine Company was not really a sewing machine company. They started out around 1869 in Cleveland, Ohio. That was really their inception, 1869. So a little bit over a decade after the Singer Sewing Machine Company came on the scene in 1851. About 15 years later, the GRAYBAR folks came on the scene, but they had nothing to do with sewing machines at all. They were actually working as an electric and a telegraph company. So they were involved in the space of trying to develop our grid works and everything else to make us more sophisticated as a society in being able to generate electricity. And then also tied to that was communication through telephone type lines, through telegraph. And so that's what this company was focused on from around 1869 out in Cleveland, Ohio. The founders of it were Elisha Gray, Gray, and Enos Barton. So that's how they got their name. GRAYBAR came from Elisha's last name, Gray, and then Enos's last name, Barton. They took part of that. So GRAYBAR. And they ended up being kind of curious about moving to a different market. So they ended up, when a new partner joined them, they decided to leave the Cleveland, Ohio area and move to Chicago. And talk about timing. They moved to Chicago in the latter part of the 1800s, just before, and they literally got established in conjunction with this great event that happened in Chicago right around 1871. Does anyone remember what happened in Chicago in 1871? They literally had just moved from Cleveland, Ohio. They landed in Chicago, and this, I'll give you a little bit of a hint, this horrific event that affected the whole city of Chicago happened in 1871. So if someone wants to Google it, what happened in Chicago that was terrible in 1871, it'll probably pop up in Google right away. So because of this horrific event that happened, this company, being opportunistic, decided that they wanted to also go not only into the electric and the telegraph space, but they wanted to start focusing on fire safety. So they started developing different types of fire alarms, fire suppression. So if none of you got it yet, the horrific event that happened in Chicago right after the GRAYBAR people moved there from Cleveland, Ohio, was nothing other than the Chicago fire that most of us have heard about. You know, that huge fire that happened in Chicago wiped out the whole city, their whole existence, pretty much. Yeah, exactly right, Alex. Exactly right. The Chicago fire. So they were, right around 1871. They're in Chicago now. This fire kicks in. They start focusing on fire suppression, fire alarms. And then it wasn't until around 1925, they got curious about the idea of developing another revenue stream, because sewing machines were just booming. They were just booming in the 1920s. They were booming in the 1920s, and they thought, hey, this is a great market to get into. Why don't we get into it? And then when they looked into the cost of building a production facility and actually building their own sewing machines, kind of like Sears and Roebuck and other companies, hundreds of other companies that wanted to be in the sewing machine space, they decided that they couldn't afford to do it. They couldn't come up with millions of dollars to develop a production facility to make their own sewing machines. So they turned to a company, as hundreds of others had done, and they said, can you help us develop our own flavor of sewing machine? Does anyone know what company that is that helped them out? We've mentioned this company many, many, many times in live streams. And they were based, I'll give you a big hint, this company was based in Illinois. So how convenient is that? They had moved from Cleveland, Ohio to Chicago, Illinois, and they discovered that this company that helps companies out doing private branding was right there in Illinois. And they were able to come together and make it happen. And it's not the White Sewing Machine Company. That's a great guess from Tim. Great guess. And also a great guess from Alex as well. New Home. Those companies were both based on the East Coast, and they pretty much stayed there on the East Coast. New Home and also the White Sewing Machine Company, although White eventually got some Japanese roots as well. But there was another company based in Illinois, and they were called the National Sewing Machine Company. The National Sewing Machine Company. And if anyone wants to do it during the live stream, we did this once before, and people were blown away. And Susie reminded me yesterday as we were preparing for this live stream, she said, I believe it was Emma that crunched all the numbers, because I had several pages of private brand sewing machine companies that never made a single sewing machine, but they were private branded by the National Sewing Machine Company. And when I pulled up that list and I printed it, it was like 3 or 4 pages long, column after column after column of sewing machine companies that never made a single machine. But like GRAYBAR, they hired the National Sewing Machine Company to private brand their machines, and they sold thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of their sewing machines during the craze of sewing machines, the 1920s through the 1960s. So for about 40 years, they were fat and happy selling sewing machines through their own name that they never made. The National Sewing Machine Company did it for them. Yeah, Susie's doing some good summaries of dates and stuff. So yeah, it's cool when you can see a machine like this, really, that is fairly unique, and it gives you an idea of how specialized and how particular of a checklist the National Sewing Machine Company would go through for their clients to give them a machine that was their own, that looked like no one else's machine. It wasn't like a Ricky Ticky type thing where they all looked the same that came out of that factory in Illinois. They ended up making each machine a one of a kind for that company that hired them, very much like the GRAYBAR sewing machine company. Now, the one thing I'll tell you about this GRAYBAR machine that we're going to be sewing on today is that it does not take a standard needle. Don't you always hate when I say that? Because I'm used to just holding this up and saying, you know, today our setup is a Schmetz 9014 universal sewing machine needle. If we try putting this needle in this GRAYBAR, we're going to have some awful, awful stitch quality. In fact, we're going to have a lot of skip stitches, because this particular needle, which is based off of a system of a 1 by 15 or a 15 by 1 system that's most common now, the GRAYBAR is based off of a 20 by 1 system. So our needles today, pretty much that we get at Joann's, we get at the sewing centers, are going to be based on a sewing system of a 15 by 1. That's going to take into account the length of the needle, the girth of the shank, and a lot of other anatomy of that needle as you're looking at it. And I'll show you inside of this owner's manual. It's so important. See if I can find it again. Thought it was in the manual, but I might be mistaken. The manual is evident, emphasizing the difference in the needles. But I'll tell you this, that if you take these two needles, I'm going to see if I can hold them up and show you. The one on your left is going to be the machine. Let me tape it together with some blue tape so I can hold it on the top and show you I'll actually tape it on the back. Get a little piece of tape and we'll just stick it to some tape. And then you can see the difference in the length of these two needles. So if you've gotten a GRAYBAR, or if you've had a GRAYBAR in the past and you tried to put in a standard 15 by 1 needle and you just couldn't have any success, it's because it's the wrong needle. See if I can do this here. All right, I think I got it. I hope I got it. It's fun when you have tape like this and it sticks to everything you don't want it to stick to. Let's do this so I have less stickiness. Okay, I think I've got a successful thing now. Let's see. All right, I'm going to do like this, see if this works. So if you look at those two needles, I can see that I've got this one a little bit higher. Hold on a second. I've got the Schmetz needle. Now I've got it too low. Let me see if I can do this here. Trying to get them as even as I can so you can see the significant length difference. That's pretty doggone close. That's pretty close, I think. So if you look at these two needles, you can kind of see the difference in length, right? The one on the left is going to be the needle that's a 20 by 1, a 20 by 1 sewing system, which used to be very popular back in the 1930s and 1940s. And then you've got the Schmetz needle, a Schmetz 9014 needle on the right. So you can see right away with relation to hook timing, if you try using a Schmetz needle on a rotary machine like this that requires a 20 by 1 system instead of a 15 by 1 system, it's not going to be going far enough down to meet that hook in relation to the scarf, and you're not going to be able to do any successful sewing. In fact, you might not even be able to pull the thread up. When you try to pull the thread up on this machine, you might not even be able to pull the thread up. The thread is not going to it's not going to be close enough to the needle to grab. The other thing I'll point out is the needle on the right is a 9014 needle, like I said, a size 14 needle. The needle on the left is a size 16 needle, and I believe it's by Oregon Sewing Machine Company, but a significant needle length difference. And also, when you look at the two needles as well, the scarves are in a little bit different position, the height of the scarf, the depth of the scarf, and that all ties in as well to that hook being able to come around and grab that thread in the sewing process. If that scarf is too long, the thread tends to be able to move a little bit more, and you're very likely to have skip stitches because that thread is going to be moving in the sewing process. It's not going to be saddled in that scarf ready for the hook, and you're going to be missing the thread. Kind of like we did with that last sewing machine where I think it was Carol's machine, where we had an issue with the needle and we had some skip stitches when we were sewing the leather. So needles are really, really quite important, aren't they? Also, the anatomy of the needle in relation to the depth of the scarf, the length of the scarf, the length of the shank, and everything else. And one of the hacks that a couple of people talked about online, I'll just share with you, is they talked about taking a little tiny piece of magnet, a tiny little piece of magnet that would be the offset distance between the length of the 20 by 1 needle and the 15 by 1 needle, and sliding it up into the needle socket, a little piece of magnet, cutting it exactly to the length needed, and then it would fill that extra gap space. So when you slide a Schmetz needle in, that Schmetz needle would be stopped by that magnet, and then you would have the proper distance down with relation to the point, the scarf, and then that sewing needle would work. Apparently, they had some success doing this, but I think it's probably just better just to go ahead and get some of these 20 by 1 needles. They are available on eBay, Etsy, Pinterest. So if you have a rotary machine like this that requires that 20 by 1 system, just go to eBay, Etsy, Pinterest, type in 20 by 1 sewing machine needle, and you should be in pretty good shape. The only offset to that is that there are slightly different changes to the 20 by 1 needle that happen between the 1940s and the 1950s, where they were moving that scarf higher up, lower down. They were making the design, the anatomy of the needle a little bit different. Most people said that there's probably currently out there's about 5 different types of 20 by 1 needles, 5 different types of 20 by 1 needles. So if you happen to order needles for your GRAYBAR rotary machine, you order the 20 by 1, but you're still having some challenges. You have to look at that anatomy of the needle a little bit closer and take a look and see where that scarf is located. That scarf on that version of the 21 by needle, they might have moved it up higher, and that hook is coming around and just barely missing that thread. if you're having skip stitch issues. Skip stitch issues. Blah. So, and also the shank can also affect the height of the needle a little bit as well. You notice on this version of the 20x1 that I have, it has a very, very long butt of the needle, a very, very long shank, incredibly long. And this is going to be sliding up into that needle socket. Some of these will be a little bit shorter, some will be a little bit wider, some will be a little bit more narrow. So it can be a little bit tricky finding the right needle for these machines from the 1940s that require a 20x1 needle. But I would just say, just take a swing at it. It's better than leaving it in the closet, and it's better than giving up on the machine. That's for sure. It's going to turn these around the other way too and show you the scarf side. Let's try to do this. I'm just going to hold them. So now we've got the Schmetz needle on the left, and we've got the GRAYBAR 20x1 needle on the right. And I don't know how close I can get as far as showing you this scarf. There we go. You can see this GRAYBAR needle compared to the Schmetz needle actually has a very subtle scarf comparatively. You can see that the eye of the needle is a little bit different as well on these two needles. The eye in the Schmetz needle is going to be a little bit larger because it's a universal needle compared to the GRAYBAR. GRAYBAR is going to be a little bit more narrow, a little bit longer. But look at that GRAYBAR as far as the butt or the end of the needle. Look at how long that is to accommodate that deep needle socket for the 20x1 system. Yeah, now that I'm getting a better view of that, the scarf on the 20x1 needle for the GRAYBAR, it's not quite as pronounced, but it's quite a bit deeper. Look at the depth of that scarf on the 20x1 needle. You can see that. I'll try to turn it sideways a little bit. There we go. But that whole anatomy of the needle, affects your sewing as far as where that hook is going to come into conjunction with that scarf, how long that scarf is, how deep the scarf is on the needle. And the scarf, again, is that little indentation at the bottom, just adjacent to the eye of the needle, just above it. Yeah. Now we're getting a real clear view of the scarf on that GRAYBAR 20x1 needle. Look at how long that scarf is. It almost goes all the way down to the point of the needle, doesn't it? The scarf on that 20x1 needle is almost 2 times the size of the Schmetz scarf. Look at that. So needles matter. They really do. Needles matter. And bobbins matter too. There's a lot of bobbins that will fit in this machine. But look at the unique design of this bobbin for this GRAYBAR. Look at that center circle. It's significantly larger than a standard bobbin. If you think about the bobbins, like the class 66 bobbins, even the class 15 bobbins, circumference and the girth of the bobbin is going to be similar. But look at that center mounting point if you want it to function right in the machine. Significantly different bobbin design on this machine also compared to most of the machines we're accustomed to seeing. So other bobbins will fit in this bobbin case, but they're not going to function the same, just like the needle. You got to fit it like a glove, right? To get the right outcome. And if you're curious about the length difference, I've shown you these needles. I've shown you these needles multiple times. The difference between these two needles of the one that's designed for the 20x1 sewing system and the Schmetz needle on the right that's designed for a 15x1 sewing system. See if I can hold them like that, maybe. Yeah, that's not too bad, maybe. So when you're looking at the length difference, the specific length difference If you want to try the magnet method that I talked about, where you cut a tiny little piece of magnet and you slide it into that needle socket, so you can use a standard Schmetz needle on these machines that are designed for a 20x1 sewing system. The length that you want to cut that magnet to is going to be 4.3 millimeters. 4.3 millimeters will give you the appropriate offset, so it'll push this Schmetz needle down, and it will make them the same length on the needle point end right there. That magnet method, it'll bring it down. But notice, even if you bring them to about the same length, that scarf is still going to be a factor, in my opinion. The scarf design, the long groove design is a little bit different on the two needles, between the Schmetz needle, which is a 15x1 system, and the GRAYBAR needle, which is a 20x1 system. So you can get them to the correct length, so that that hook is going to be in proximity to the scarf, but you might still have intermittent issues because the scarf design is different on the two needles, and the hole for the needle itself is a little bit different design on the two needles as well. So they said it's a quick fix, but I don't know if that's going to be the right fix. I think the right fix is finding the right 20x1 needle for your rotary GRAYBAR machine, and then you'll have success consistently, instead of, oh, it's going to be a good sewing, oh, it's a bad sewing day, it's skipping stitches again because I've got this adaptive method of sliding this little magnet up there. But if you want to give it a try, circle back and let us know how it worked. You might have another machine that requires a 20x1 system, or maybe a 24x1 system that's going to affect the length of that needle. You can always try the magnet method once you figure out the difference. Again, the difference for this machine with a 20x1 needle versus the standard Schmetz 15x1 needle is going to be right around 4.3 millimeters. That's how long you want to make that little piece of magnet that you're going to slide up into the needle socket, and then you'll slide the needle in right after it. But the idea of it being magnetic is it'll stick to the metal of that socket, and it's not going to be falling out every time you change the needle out. So it's a clever idea, but I'll be curious to know, if anyone tries it, what kind of results you get. Let's see. Just seeing if there's any other notes that I had that I wanted to share with you. I think that's about it. We've learned a little bit more about this company, the fact that they really did not make sewing machines, that the National Sewing Machine Company out of Illinois made this GRAYBAR, like they did hundreds of other models. I don't remember. I was talking with Susie yesterday in preparation for the live stream, and her recollection is it was probably around 400, about 400 or almost 500 different brands before the National Sewing Machine Company went out of business, that they had produced machines for companies that couldn't afford to set up their own manufacturing plant. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty amazing cool. Wanted to also give you another tip real quick. Susie and I had a chance to do a little bit of shopping yesterday, and one of the places that we stopped was Harbor Freight. Most of you around the country know Harbor Freight. You probably have been in there. It's really a fun store to get pretty much anything you want to get. They got it. And one of the things that they have on sale, at least they did through yesterday, they might still have the sale going on, is these magnetic trays. This happens to be a 4-inch magnetic tray. And I'm not an Amazon person. Most of you know that. I don't do Amazon. I know it's shocking, but I don't do Amazon. And apparently they sell these. Susie can type it in the live chat. They sell these for a ridiculous price on Amazon, which is usually the place to get really cool stuff, quality stuff at a really, really good price. But apparently Amazon is selling these for an arm and a leg. And I won't tell you the price that I paid for this right away. I'll let Susie type some of that in the live chat. And if any of you want to guess what I paid for this, go ahead and type it in the live chat. But I was shocked with all the sales they had going on for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, blah, 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 what they were asking for this 4-inch magnetic tray. These are really critical if you like to service your own machine and take it apart and service it and take care of it, you want to get all your metal parts in a tray like this so you can keep an eye on them so they don't get away from you. Okay, you want to use one of these trays, this type of tray, and they've got other versions of these trays as well. I think these were an Amazon purchase, these smaller trays. You look at them in proximity, they're quite a bit smaller than this 4-inch one that came from Harbor Freight. And Alex, I see Alex tossed a guess out there, $1.99. Well, let me say this, Alex, you are really close, but you have to drop that dollar off of there, my friend. You have to drop that dollar off of the $1.99, and that's what they're selling these for at Harbor Freight. I'm not kidding you. So if you have a Harbor Freight near you out in California, Texas, Louisiana, Virginia, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, wherever you live, there's probably a Harbor Freight. You can get one of these 4-inch magnetic trays made by Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh makes a lot of cool things if you didn't know that. You get it for 99 cents. It's like a Dollar Tree, for goodness sakes. I couldn't believe it. So hopefully they extended that sale. They had a lot of these available. And instead of getting one of these littler ones, these are nice too. They're really cool. Susie had a bunch of these and she let me use them. But then we saw these and we're like, holy mackerel. That is a deal of a steal, or a steal of a deal, one of the two. So check it out and see what you discover. But these are really, whether you go with one of these or something in between, they really are essential for that serious sewist that tries to maintain their own machines. Or like, the person that's wanting to step into this space and begin the process of maybe servicing machines to help out family, friends, or maybe making it a small business or something like that. Like a couple of our leadership team members are stepping into space like that, where they've decided that they want to start doing good with the things that they learn in the classroom, things that they pick up other places, and they want to take servicing to a new level. Maybe sewing vacs are in their area right now and they're doing a crummy job. And they're like, no, that is not a standard. What the sewing vacs are doing is a joke. We want to do better. And so a lot of our friends, I believe Tim and Teresa, are taking a step that direction, where they said, we want to do it better out in Thorpe, Wisconsin and the greater area. And we're going to start doing servicing of machines and some minor restoration of machines, and pick up the little things we do in the classroom and other places and raise those standards well above what the sewing vacs are doing. I applaud that. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as growing the flock of raising the standards of service. Don't you agree? The service standards for the average sewing vac are so pathetically low. We've got to raise the bar up. And if we can do that within our own family, developing a home-based business or doing something like that, where we're taking care of people's machines and we're doing a more thorough service, more of a cow country service, then doggone it, do that. Do it for your own machines first, and then spread it out and help out family, help out friends, and develop a little bit of extra cash on the side by doing it better. It's raising the standards. It's raising the bar. Why not? I think it's great. I think it's fabulous. Okay. All right, let's move into this a little bit more. I'm going to move these needles to the side. So a little bit about the setup on this GRAYBAR. We're going to take a little peek at the threading. The threading is kind of tricky on this machine. You already know that there's a 20x1 needle in here, a much longer needle than we're accustomed to sewing with. And when you insert this needle into that needle socket, whether you use that magnet method and fill up that extra space and put a standard needle in here, or whether you actually go for the 20x1 needle, you're going to want to make sure that the flat side of the needle, which would be the same side as the scarf, the flat side and the scarf are on the same side. You want that to be pointing towards the pillar on the right. So make sure that flat side is pointing to the right. And as far as the bobbin case itself, I'll actually take it out and show you. Bobbin case is right down here. See if we can get a closer look at that. There's our bobbin case. You kind of pinch it on the top. You pinch it on the top and the bottom to pull that bobbin case out. Just kind of pinch it like this. And then that bobbin case will pull out. And this is the bobbin case that holds that huge bobbin in the center. And it's going to have the same type of tension band that most of our other bobbin cases do. This is our set screw right here on the left. This is our adjusting screw. So let me ask all of you a question real quick here. If we start to sew, let's say we have the right needle in the machine. We've got a 20x1 needle. We've got the flat side to the right facing towards the pillar. And we've done a general servicing of the machine. We've gotten it all tidied up and we've got it sewing well generally. But we're having a little bit of a tension issue. And the tension issue that we're having is that our top stitches look really loosey-goosey. Our top stitches look really loosey-goosey. What kind of adjustment can we potentially make on this bobbin case to tighten up those top stitches? Do we turn the adjusting screw right here? Do we turn it clockwise or do we turn it counterclockwise to try to tighten up that top stitch? Go ahead and type in the live chat. I'm going to put on a little bit of music, a little bit of interlude music, because I forgot to bring a Diet Coke down. I'm going to grab a Diet Coke real quick and grab a Diet Coke, and then I'll be right back, and then we'll get into this great rotary machine from the 1940s, okay? Let me find some interlude music here. Give me just a moment here, y'all. Put on a little bit of music, and then I'll grab that soda real quick. I hit the wrong button. Hold on a second. Haste makes waste. When you're trying to go too fast, you'll tend to goof things up. Got a little bit of a glitch on my phone right now. I hope it doesn't infect the computer that I'm live streaming on. I'm going to reboot my phone real quick. Hold on a second. That's how I play the music, is through the phone. So give me just a moment here as I reboot the phone. If I try to play the music through the laptop, it sounds really weird on the microphone and it cuts things out. So, all right. So I'm going to reboot it. Almost done. There we go. All right, this should do it, hopefully. All right, I'll be right back. Ah. All right, let me stop the music. Okay, so let me do this. Oh, Alex had to step away. Okay. Alex has very busy life. I bet he's probably doing all kinds of things associated with that business that they just started for preemie babies, which is totally cool. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to go through and say hello to everybody, and then we will jump into. Let's see here. Just click the wrong thing. There we go. Okay, so a quick hello to Susie, who is hosting the temporary workshop and actually met me halfway with a Diet Coke. So thank you for that, Susie. Saved me about 4 or 5, 6 steps. She heard on the line, hey, he's coming for a Diet Coke. I'm going to grab a Diet Coke and have it ready. So thank you for that. And Susie was the first in the classroom today. Alex, who just had to step away, was a very close second. Alex was right on the heels of Susie coming into the classroom, and always glad to have Alex and his wife. And I hope their business for preemies is going well. Hoping eventually to see a link for that so that we can check out the business and maybe even help promote the business a little bit as well, which would be great. Let's see. Also, good morning to Joelle out in California as well. I believe it's Bakersfield, California, is where Joelle and her mom and family are. And we have a lot of California folks in the Cow Country family. I think it's fabulous. They oftentimes, as the weather gets really cold in the Midwest, this morning it was right around 9 degrees, And they can say, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's a little chilly here today, too. We're only at 75 or 76. And they got jackets on. Can you imagine if they were back here and they stepped outside and it's 9 degrees or it's freezing or below freezing, which, is pretty common this time of the year in this area. So we always envy our friends out in California just a little bit with the beautiful weather they have. Let's see here. We also have, let's see here, Aaron Allen from the great state of Vermont. Great to have Aaron Allen here as well. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit further, see who else we have in the live chat. And if you're in the audience right now, and you're not in the live chat, that's okay. A lot of folks start and they just watch and they watch and they watch. They sometimes watch for years. I know that Susie said that for quite a long time. Emma's the same way. Candido, I believe, is the same way. All of these folks, for quite a long time, they sat in the shadows. They did not join the live chat. And then eventually, when they saw what kind of a culture and how friendly the family is and how much we care about each other, they stepped out into the live chat and they've never turned back. So hopefully at some point you're comfortable enough to jump in to the live chat, introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about yourself, what kind of sewing you do, what kind of machines you have, what part of the world you're in, because we get people from all around the world. I believe at the last live stream, we had a gentleman from Sweden that joined us. And, it's very common. We get people from all over the globe that jump into the live streams, which is always fun. We get to learn a little bit more about their culture and a little bit more about their customs in that country as well, if we've not had a chance to visit there. And it kind of whets our appetite to want to go to that part of the world and to see that culture that they're a part of, doesn't it? Whether it's our friends that live in Brazil or Africa or Australia or the UK or a strange and foreign place like New York, even. So, but it's fun to get out there and to meet new people in the live chat. So hopefully at some point you'll feel comfortable in doing that, and we'll be able to get a chance to finally meet you and to give you an official welcome to the family. That's really the big deal. Is we're a big family here, and we love to be able to have the privilege and honor of welcoming and meeting new family members. All right. Also, let me say good morning to Teresa and Tim as well, out in the great state of Wisconsin. I'm in Minnesota right now, so I kind of feel weird saying out in the great state of Wisconsin, because that's where the old workshop was. It was always like, hey, fellow Wisconsin, yeah, go Packers. I've got to be careful about saying go Packers around here, because I am living and working in a field of purple. Nothing wrong with purple. And Teresa will attest to that, because Teresa loves the color purple. And matter of fact, you might remember that I mixed a special batch of purple grease for Teresa and Tim, and I kept a little bit of extra. So occasionally when I'm servicing a machine, I can either pick from Teresa's grease, from Candido's grease, which is green, or from Susie's grease, which is blue. But if you're part of the leadership team, as a special way to say thank you and a special way to honor your service to the family as part of the leadership team, I'm giving each leader the opportunity to tell me what their favorite color is for the grease. And then I'll do my very best to mix up a batch of the original pink grease, but I'll make it your color instead. So I believe I still have to hear from Jenny, our ambassador to Needles. I have to hear from Christine from Canada. I have to hear from Bill O'Rourke from Florida, and any of the other leaders that are part of the live stream leadership team. I'd love to invite you to reach out and say, oh, can you do yellow? Can you do some other color? I don't know, orange. Can you make orange grease or something like that? I'll give it my best try. And then that leader will have their own grease. I'll keep a little reservoir of it on the workbench right over there. And then during one of the live streams, when we have to service a gearbox or we have to service worm gears, I'll ask the audience, whose grease should we use? Should we use Candido's? Should we use Teresa's or Susie's? Should we use, we still have to get a color from Emma as well. Emma out in Florida has to give me her favorite color, and then we'll mix up some grease for Emma. And then I'll have a little tub of each of the leaders' grease on the workbench, and we'll pick from one of those colors when we do a live stream and we have to use it on one of the machines. We'll have to use grease at the live stream on Saturday when we service the featherweights. They have 2 sets of worm gears, top and bottom, and we're going to have to service those with one of the leaders' grease. So you'll be able to pick then one of those colors. All right. Blah, 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 blah. There you go. Hey, that's my chin. I didn't shave as close as I thought. I thought I did. It's kind of, a little, have to work on that. Okay. All right. Let's see who else we have. Oh, also good morning to, it looks like Ron. Good morning to Ron as well. Great to have Ron here. I know Ron has been here before. Let's see here. I think I said good morning to Tim already, but good morning to Tim. And also congratulations again to Tim. Tim was just appointed at one of the last live streams. Tim was just appointed a new moderator on the team. So now he is co-moderating with his lovely wife, Teresa, out there in Thorpe, Wisconsin. And I don't know if they have like a rough morning and Teresa's kind of ticked off at Tim. Maybe he didn't do something that she wanted to have done. She might throw him into a timeout. I don't know. I don't know if that can be done. I don't know if a moderator can throw another moderator into a timeout or not, but it may happen in one of these live streams. And just know it's all done in fun and done in love. Okay? It's all in fun and love. All right. Who else do we have? Good morning also to Emma. Emma out in the beautiful state of Florida, around Naples, Florida. Let's see here. Who else do we have? Scrolling. Oh, also good morning to Bill Mesa Group. And Bill, the screen name Mesa Group, is also from the great state of Minnesota. He and his daughter, Lisa, if I remember correctly. And if anyone remembers Bill's dog's name and can type it in the live chat first, I might send you a special gift because you're really super smart, with the exception of Susie, because Susie, I know, knows it straight away. But if anyone remembers Bill's dog out in Minnesota, Bill and Lisa's dog out in Minnesota, go and type it in the live chat. Let's see here. Oops, I hope I didn't miss somebody. Okay, we also have this is a new one to me, but maybe not to the leadership team, because I don't spend nearly as much time monitoring the live stream chat as they do. That's why I'm so grateful for them being there, kind of keeping an eye on the family and taking care of the family. I've never seen Animal Party before from Portland, Oregon. So a special welcome to Animal Party from the beautiful state of Oregon. I actually have two machines in the temporary workshop right now that are from Oregon that are going to be going back to Oregon eventually. And they belong to a couple that work as physician assistants. They work as physician assistants. I think I have to get another drink of soda. And back at the original workshop in Oconto, Wisconsin, this couple at the time was out on the East Coast, out in that area near Ohio, and they drove from Ohio with was it four machines, I believe it was. They drove them from Ohio to the workshop in Oconto, Wisconsin, and then they took new jobs as physician assistants out in the beautiful state of Oregon, where they are now. And I don't remember the city. Let me look real quick to see if I can see the city, what city that is. Let's see. One of them is a Spartan. Well, let's see here. I don't have their city name. But the giving you the area code probably doesn't help you much. But it's 509. 509 area code. 509 area code that the physician assistants are from out in Oregon. So if 509 helps anybody out, that's the area code for their location. But again, a special welcome. Always great to have new folks join the family and step out and introduce themselves. And it's great to have our new friend from Portland, Oregon. And as a person from the north, I'm probably saying that wrong, aren't I? It's probably is it Oregon or Oregon? We'll have to ask our friend from that great state if they say Oregon or Oregon or gone. God, I have no idea. I probably got it wrong. Let's see who else we have. Oh, it's gorgeous today in Oregon. Okay, like Oregon. Okay, like play the organ. Okay. So Oregon, it's 2 syllables. Oregon, it's not Oregon. Oregon. Okay, I'll get it right. Ha ha! And I don't know. Oh, they've got okay. Our friend from Oregon has 3 dogs and 4 sewing machines. Life is okay. Well, hopefully, being a part of the family, life doesn't just isn't just okay. Hopefully, it's extraordinary because we have a lot of fun in these live streams, and we have a lot of fun in these live streams. We have a lot of fun getting to know each other, developing friendships. Some significant friendships have been forged through these videos and these live streams on the Cow Country channel. Lifelong friends have been found. So, and lifelong friends around the world have been found. So it's really kind of a neat, it's a neat opportunity to come together, isn't it? It's a neat opportunity. Okay. All right. So let's get into this machine. Let's look at this bobbin real quick. Take this out here. Just kind of give you a little glimpse of the bobbin. It's going to be pretty similar to most others. It's going to have a little bit of a different design. This is the bobbin for this particular machine. And I've already serviced it, and I've shown you how to service bobbins about every 8 hours of sewing. About every 8 hours of sewing, you're going to want to take a Q-tip swab and a little bit of sewing machine oil. If you get a bobbin, it's really, really nasty. This bobbin is in pretty good shape, but if you get a bobbin case and it's in really, really bad condition, what you'll want to do is you'll want to swab it first of all with rubbing alcohol. So you'll take a bobbin case like this. See, maybe I'll do it. Let's see if we can do it right here. Yeah, that'll work. If you have a really, really nasty bobbin case, get some rubbing alcohol and go ahead and get your Q-tip swab dampened. And then you can swab the inside, get it nice and clean. Swab around here where that bobbin is going to mount as well. Swab on the inside. You can push it all the way through if you want, like that. Get all the junk off. And then what you'll do is you'll follow up and you'll put a light coat. You'll put a light coat of sewing machine oil or kerosene. I usually use a mixture of the two. I use a mixture of kerosene and sewing machine oil. And if you use the sewing machine oil, make sure it's the crystal white stuff that doesn't stain the machines. Dampen that other end of the swab, and then just put a light layer of oil on the inside of that bobbin case, around the stem that the bobbin mounts to, on the inside where it mounts to the machine. And even as much as you clean it, you'll be surprised that machine picks up dirt very, very quickly. And you can see already, even just with a little bit of sewing off camera, we've already tidied that up and gotten that bobbin case all set to do its important job. And when you're getting ready to set this bobbin case up, you can go ahead and hold the bobbin in your right hand if you'd like, with the thread coming underneath, like so. Hold the bobbin case in the other hand, and go ahead and just slide that bobbin in so the thread is on the bottom. Bring that thread up to that track you can see right there. That track's going to be right in proximity to the adjusting screw. Draw it down that track. And then get it all the way underneath this tension band right here. So you have to kind of hold the bobbin a little bit and then draw it all the way down, so it's underneath that tension band completely. And then just check your tension. Don't touch your bobbin. Just pull that thread. You should have about 3 to 4 ounces of resistance, approximately. 3 to 4 ounces. You can feel a little bit of resistance when you're pulling, but it's not like yanking in a fish. You know what I mean? Yeah, that feels just about spot on. Go ahead and give that a clip. And then we're all set to reinsert this. And unlike some of the rotary machines that will actually rotate to the rear, this one is a front rotating machine by the GRAYBAR. So when you're going to pull that thread up, you'll want to turn your balance wheel towards yourself as you normally would on most machines. Draw that to the rear, and we're all set to finally start sewing. And I've got a fairly good field of materials for us to try out today. I've got some denim, which I don't believe I've done denim from the new workshop yet, from this temporary workshop. So I've got some denim that we'll be sewing. We're going to be sewing some of this vegetable tan leather. So denim, vegetable tan leather, multiple layers of denim as well. Might even try multiple layers of veg tan leather too. Maybe we'll do 2 of these back to back just to show you that this rotary style machine that is not powered by a belt, it's powered by a friction pulley. A friction pulley is going to make direct contact with the balance wheel, and it's going to turn that balance wheel like a direct drive machine, almost like the 201s and the 1591 that have that gear-to-gear drive. This is going to be a friction pulley to balance wheel drive. So they're really generally, if you keep that friction pulley clean periodically with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, don't saturate it, just dampen it lightly and clean over that friction pulley. And then also keep that balance wheel clean and free of oil. You're going to get a really, really nice launch with this type of machine. And also we have cotton. And then I've got some of this parchment paper that they use for packing your Amazon packages. So if you order through Amazon, you've gotten this paper before, and it's fun to sew through paper because it really defines that stitch beautifully, and it also tests the power of that motor. Again, this motor is coming in right around a 0.8 amp, right around a 0.8 amp. It's going to have plenty of power, I think, for all the sew-offs we're doing today. And you'll gain a new appreciation for this design of machine that we don't see very often, and very, very seldom do we see it on this channel either. And then I've got just a tiny little piece of veg tan leather that Susie helped me cut into a circle, and we're going to be sewing to the 1812 overture, going around in a circle. I'll probably wait until almost the end of the song because this is probably about 20% smaller than my average circles, and I'll run out of space probably if I go too long. So, all right. So again, I'm going to be powering the machine with a knee controller on top of the table. See if I can just show that to you real quickly. This is going to be our knee controller. And if you were saying, what is a friction pulley? That's a friction pulley right there. So the friction pulley comes with the output shaft right off of the motor, and it makes direct contact with the balance wheel. There's no belt involved whatsoever. Pulley to balance wheel. That's it. And these pulleys do have to be replaced over time. This one is still serviceable. And unlike some of the designs by Domestic and White, where the motor will rotate away and it's spring loaded, this one is a tight fit. So you have to make sure the pulley you get is not too wide, or you're not going to be able to get it in up against the balance wheel. It has to be a real thin pulley on here, the friction pulley. There it is. Real thin. All right. I'm being really, really temperamental and sensitive about this camera. I don't want to have a disconnect like I did that one time. I was jimming around with the camera a lot and ended up ending the live stream prematurely. All right. So I did not, let me see. Let me see if I can cut a quick, I'm going to put on a little bit of interlude music. I'm going to see if I can put on some music real quick and cut some quilt batting real quick. And let's see here. There we go. Give me just a moment. I'll be right back. These are the scissors that Emma sent me that are surgical scissors, and these cut quilt batting beautifully if you don't want to use your sewing scissors. All right, let's see if I can shut this off temporarily. I hate to interrupt Mozart, but we're going to do it anyway. So I'm going to set up a sew off with some quilt batting. What do you think? Should we do 1 layer or 2 layers of quilt batting? If anyone has any opinion, just type it into the live chat. Oh, happy birthday to Ranger. Ranger has a birthday today. Very cool. Let me see if I can find a picture of Ranger to show everybody. I know Emma sent me a picture of Ranger. Hold on a second. We'll find him. All right. If anyone wants to know what Ranger looks like that Emma referenced, this is Ranger right here. So happy birthday to Ranger, who is, I believe, 1 year old. 1 year old today. He's a cutie, isn't he? He looks like a little dust mop, doesn't he? Ha! He looks like a little dust mop. A Power Ranger, exactly. I believe Emma sent me a picture of him after he went to the groomer, too. Let me see if I can find that. I don't know if I still have that one or not. But that's Ranger who's having a birthday. Animals are so important to us, aren't they? Animals are so important to us. Well, that's the picture I have of Ranger. So now you know what Ranger looks like. All right. Well, let's cut this in half, I think. All right, so we're going to go to 2 layers of quilt batting. I did not try this yet. And then we'll do some straight cotton sewing like I've been doing with 8 layers of it. Let's see how this rotary does. So this is kind of what we're going to be sewing right here. We've got these 2 layers of quilt batting. We've got this 100% cotton Nothing fancy. I just have it kind of draped over. We'll try buzzing down this, and then we'll take cotton as well, and we'll give ourselves around 8 layers, maybe 10 layers, and then we'll see if we can put this rotary to work on that as well. And I've got the stitch length right now at just about the maximum. I should also walk you around this machine a little bit too. We'll do this sew off first, and then I'll walk you around the machine and kind of show you the threading of it as well, because like I said, it's a little bit of a tricky machine from a threading standpoint. All right, so I'm going to power this puppy with the knee controller up on the table. I think that's a pretty good angle right there. Yeah, we'll leave it right there. And like all machines, you want to make sure that take-up arm is at the highest position when you launch, so you get a good launch. We are. All right, let's give this a go. 2 layers of quilt batting with 100% cotton. All right, here we go. Yeah. I love the sound of the rotary machines. It's just like an engine that could. It's like a dum 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 dum. You know, almost like a big trucker putting on the Jake brake. If you've ever been on the highway and you have like a big truck near you and you're coming up to a stop, and all of a sudden you hear like boom 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 boom. That's a Jake brake. And I think that's really a cool sound, although a lot of cities don't agree with me, and they actually outlaw truckers using that brake in the city limits because it's so loud and people can hear it for a long distance. All right, so nothing fancy here. We did a basic sew off on 100% cotton, 2 layers of quilt batting. I thought about doing 1 layer, and then Tim said go for it, so I went for it. Take a look at these stitches now. This is our top stitching. Look at that first. And maybe we'll go like this. It's beautiful page 34 stitches that I'm seeing. Beautiful stitches. Lovely, lovely stitches. We'll look at it like this as well. And if you're sewing through quilt batting like this, 2 layers of it, you won't have usually any issues with it. You won't have any issues with the lock stitch. You won't have any issues with the lock stitch, but you will sometimes have issues with the top stitching. We don't seem to be having any issues with the top stitching in this instance. Some beautiful, beautiful stitches. I'll kind of pull these back a little bit so you can see them without that little tuft from the edge. But we might want to back off the upper tension just slightly to give that top stitch just a little bit more pop, a little bit more pop. It's a very, very good looking top stitch, but we could even make it better. Could even make it better by backing off that upper tension just slightly. But I would definitely give it a page 34 rating. And page 34 in our culture at Cow Country means near perfect. It's not a perfect stitch. I don't think there's no such thing as a perfect stitch, but it's a near perfect stitch. But the reason I say we might want to back off the upper tension just slightly, really, really nice alignment on the stitching, beautiful. But there was one I saw, where was it? Right there. If you see a little bit of a tilt of the stitch, we don't have that to any great degree, but if you ever get a little tilting of the stitch, that's a tension factor. That's a tension factor is what that is. So yeah, 2 layers of quilt batting. Now we're going to turn it over and take a look at that lock stitch. So our lock stitch on the back now. See if I can fold that over as well and kind of give you a clear picture of that stitching. This is our lock stitching on the back. Good looking stitching, very, very good looking stitching. So lock stitching, I'll just kind of come out a little bit on here. That little tuft. Lock stitching, top stitching. Yeah, really lovely. Now we're going to step it up a little bit. And not that 2 layers of quilt batting and 2 layers of cotton. Really, we've got 4 layers here. 2 layers of cotton, 2 layers of quilt batting. Not that it's not, a challenge and a demonstration of how well the machine is sewing. But at the same time, we also want to go for a heavier sew off on this machine as well. I mean, after all, it has more than a 0.8 amp motor. We did the calculation. We divided the watts into the volts, and we figured out it was like what was it, 0.82 or something like that, 0.82. So give it a little bit of a harder sew off with cotton as well. Just have to cut this down a little bit, and then we'll go through probably 8 layers of this. Well, hopefully everybody's having a good fall so far. Everyone is having a good fall. In the Twin Cities area, we had our first snowfall. I believe it was 2 evenings ago. 2 evenings ago, we had the first snowfall in this area, and thought it was going to be more significant, but it turned out to be fairly light, and it disappeared pretty quick. I don't know if anybody else has had any significant counts of snow or not, but we are in that season now where at any time we could get slammed. At any time we could get slammed. All right, so let's do 8 layers of this now. 100% cotton. We're starting with 2 layers. 2 layers. We'll fold that over that way. Up to 4 layers. Yeah, right about there, maybe. 4 layers. 6 layers. And 8 layers. So again, cotton is generally thought to be a very light sew off, right? You say you're sewing cotton, it sounds like it's lightweight, and it generally is. But when you go up to 8 layers of 100% cotton, it's a little bit more of a test for a machine to see how it does, both with the stitch quality and for some of the newer machines that you pick up at some of the retailers, just to see if the machine can even sew through 8 layers of 100% cotton. Some of those machines are not even capable of doing that. So our vintage machines are really a huge advantage. Let's go ahead and get that underneath the presser foot, and we'll give this next sew off a try. All right, get that take-up arm up. And if you're new to sewing, this is your take-up arm right here. You want to make sure that that's at the highest position when you launch so that it frees up the mechanics of the machine. And it's just on that downstroke. See it wiggling down? All right, so we're going to try to do 8 layers of cotton now. And we'll change the stitch length on this one as well. All right, so here's 8 layers. Oh, sorry about that. I had the camera angled a little bit too high. Beautiful stitching. Beautiful stitching. Wow. All right, 8 layers of cotton. Let's take a look at this one. That's our top stitch right here. We'll look at that first. Let's shut that light off real quick. That is a beautiful, beautiful top stitch, folks. Beautiful top stitch. See what I mean? 8 layers of cotton. That's a pretty thick sew off. It truly is. Very, very nice top stitching. There's the totality of it right there. We turn it over. Is our lock stitching now? Beautiful lock stitching as well through these 8 layers of 100% cotton. And again, I think our upper tension might be a little bit high. We might have to back that off a little bit, but I'll leave it alone for right now. We're real, real close. Real, real close. Yeah, I agree with Susie. Those are stunning. They really are stunning stitches. So 8 layers of cotton. There's our lock stitch, our top stitching. I never sew straight. So if you're looking at that and going, is that pitched down a little bit? Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I did better than usual. But you can see it's not a super duper light sew off. That's quite a bit of material that we went through. But let's move on. Let's do something else now. So we've done so far on this rotary gray bar, we've done 4 layers, 2 layers of cotton, 2 layers of quilt batting, laid down some beautiful stitching on that. Now we've done 8 layers of cotton, and we did some beautiful stitching on that as well. Now we're moving to the realm of denim. Let's go through some denim now on this gray bar. Before I sew it, though, I want to fulfill my promise and walk you around this machine a little bit. Let's walk around this machine just a little bit, okay? Okay, so over on this side is going to be our stitch length control and also our reverse. And you have to unscrew this so you can move this up and down. So we move it up, down on the bottom right here is going to be our longest stitch. Going to be right around, probably around 7 to 8 stitches per inch, right around 7 stitches per inch. As we move it up, we're going to be shortening that stitch quite a bit. And then we're going to hit this middle point right here where we're going to start moving into the reverse phase of the machine. And the great thing about this gray bar that was made by the National Sewing Machine Company is that you can actually set your stitch length in reverse as well. So if we're in reverse, like right about there, we're going to be doing a reverse stitch that's around 30 stitches per inch. If we continue to move it up, we're going to be sewing in reverse, but that stitch is going to be getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer to a point when we're at the top here, we're going to be doing about 6 to 7 stitches per inch in reverse. So I love the feature of that. A number of the rotary machines give you the option to adjust your stitch length in reverse. Many machines, even some contemporary machines, do not have that capability. So it again points back to the amazing engineering of our vintage sewing machines and what they're able to do. But again, just remember that middle point is then going to take you above that into the reverse sewing on the machine. So as far as the setup on, excuse me, as far as the setup on threading the machine, come off the top right here, and we go through this first tensioner right here. These are really a set of tension discs right here. So when you raise that pressure foot lever, the pressure is off of these. When you apply that pressure foot pressure, see how it goes in? And when you're first threading it, you're going to bring that thread through that little groove opening. See that? And then you're going to bring it underneath the disc like this. Wait, let me double check. No, I've got that backwards. I'm thinking of another machine. You're going to go through this little groove, and then you're going to come counterclockwise through this first tension set of discs right here. And then from there, you're going to drop straight down, trying to follow it here, straight down to here, to this secondary tensioner right here. And when you go to the secondary tensioner, you're going to be going clockwise around the bottom and then bringing the thread a full circle around this tensioner right here and then down to here from there. Let me do that again because I created a little bit of confusion. I know that. So you come off the top, you go through this first tensioner right here, you bring it through that groove, you go counterclockwise around here, then you drop down to this secondary tensioner, you go counterclockwise around here, then you drop down to this thread guide right here and you bring it from left to right. Yep, I got that pointed right now. You got to go from left to right. And you see it goes through that little take-up spring that's recessed in there. See that little take-up spring just right in the middle towards the top. And the thread comes through there. Then you come up to your take-up arm and you thread that from right to left. You thread this from right to left. And then you come across the machine to this thread guide. You come straight down to this thread guide right above the needle. And then you're finally going to be threading this from left to right. Let me do that again because I know that I did kind of an awkward job of it the first time. So coming off the top of the spool, we come through this little groove right here on this upper tensioner. We come around this to the bottom. We drop straight down to this next tensioner. And we go counterclockwise around that, a full loop. Then we come down to this thread guide and we thread this from left to right. And make sure that that thread goes through that little tension spring, that little tension spring right there in the middle. Then we come up to the take-up arm and we thread that from right to left. Then we come across the machine and we come through this thread guide. And we go straight down to the needle through that thread guide. And then we finally thread the needle from left to right. And again, the flat side of the needle is on the right-hand side when you put it into the needle socket. So I'll give you a view of it because I don't want you to be confused about it. It's a little bit tricky as far as the routing of the thread. Kind of come back like this and let you look at the whole thing. Let's see, like that maybe. So coming off the top through the groove, you kind of bring that thread around counterclockwise through there, drop down to this tensioner, come around this way, a full loop with the thread, come down to here, left to right through the tension spring, come up to here, right to left through the take-up arm. Then you come across the front of the machine through this thread guide right there, that thread guide right down there. And then you finally thread the needle from left to right. Okay. I think I did a better job the last time than the other two times. When you're trying to explain stuff on the camera, your mind goes to mush sometimes. It just does. All right. So let's take a look at this denim now. See how we can do on this denim. So we're going to start out real light. We've got 2 layers of denim. We'll go and do 2 layers of denim, and then we'll bump it up. Make sure our take-up arm is all the way at the highest position. And it is. And now we'll go ahead and buzz through these 2 layers. All right, here we go. I'm going to push that knee controller and we'll give this a launch, see how we do. The feature of that friction pulley giving this machine the equivalent of like a direct drive really makes a huge difference when it comes to launching. You don't have the risk of that belt slipping. You just get into it and get the sewing done. Really is lovely, a lovely locomotion system on this machine. All right, let's take a look at these 2 layers of denim. Really kind of an easy peasy thing for this GRAYBAR. Kind of just take a peek at those. Very, very nice stitching. And the needle we're using, the 20x1 needle, which is going to be about, what do we say, 4.3 millimeters longer? 4.3 millimeters longer than a standard 15x1 needle. It's not going to have any special qualities when it comes to sewing some of the specialty materials that we're going to be sewing. It's designed more for cotton and denim. When we get into the leathers, we're really going to be pushing the boundaries with this 20x1 needle. We're really going to be pushing the boundaries. Beautiful needle, or beautiful needle, beautiful stitching. Now we'll look at that lock stitch. These 2 layers of denim. Yeah, really, really good looking stitching. Top stitch and the lock stitch. So 2 layers. I'm going to throw that to the back because I don't think that's much of a challenge for this machine. And then we're going to go and bump it up now. I think we'll do a bit of leather sewing maybe next. But so far we've done quilt batting and cotton, total of 4 layers. We've done 8 layers of standard cotton. And now we've done 2 layers of denim. So add that to the stack and we'll see what we're going to do next. Let's see. We could do some leather. What do y'all want to see? Do you want to see some veg tan leather, or do you want to see me bump up the denim? We'll go into a thicker denim sew off now. Instead of 2 layers, maybe we'll do 6 layers of denim. I'll let you all pick. If you want to pick and say, let's go into some leather, or let's do more denim and do about 6 layers of that. I'll let you pick. I'll look at the live chat and see what you all decide. So it's either going to be leather or it's going to be more denim at this stage. And while you're deciding, let's see here. Thicker denim. Okay, Susie's voting for thicker denim. The rest of y'all either dozed off or are quiet or something. So if anyone else has any input, if you want to see the leather, otherwise we'll move into the leather eventually. But for right now, I guess we'll stick with the denim. We're starting with 2 layers, and we're going to bump it up to 6. So I'm going to fold it right about there. And fold it one more time right about there. So that'll give us 6 layers of denim that looks like that. I think most people would agree that this is a heavy-duty sew-off. So we're going to do the 6 layers now and see how this rotary does with that. Also, this rotary is going to have very, very good clearance underneath the presser foot. We don't have any trouble at all fitting those 6 layers of denim underneath there. So if you're looking for a machine that can handle the thicker materials or multiple layers of a material, this rotary GRAYBAR is a great choice to add to your arsenal of machines. It's a great choice to add to your arsenal of machines. And I didn't point it out specifically, but on top of the arm right here, you can see we've got our presser foot adjuster right here. As we're dealing with thicker sew-offs like this, we're going to want to turn this up a little bit clockwise to increase that presser foot pressure. I'm going to give it a good 3 turns and make sure that we have enough feed factor when it comes to feeding these 6 layers of heavy grade denim. And then right here is your needle bar lubrication point. There's a little hole on top. You can drop oil in there probably about every 6 to 8 hours of sewing, 1 to 2 drops, and it'll keep your needle bar nice and lubricated so that the machine moves freely. and all the rest of this you've already seen. If you want to take off the faceplate to service the inside of here like I did, you just take off this one screw right here, this one right here. You take this off, the whole assembly comes off with this and everything else attached, and then you can service all those points inside of the faceplate by just taking that one out right there. Down on the bottom, it just has a little set screw that holds the bottom of the plate in place, but you don't have to remove that, only the top one. Okay? All right, so let's get at this 6 layers of denim and see how this rotary does on that. I'm not going to give it a hand start. We're just going to get into it. Matter of fact, I'll change the angle of the camera so you can see. All I'm going to do is push the knee control over here, and I'm not going to give it any hand start. It's just going to be the power of that motor. Kind of do it like that, maybe. All right, here we go. 6 layers of heavy grade denim on this 1940's GRAYBAR rotary made by the National Sewing Machine Company, operating with a 20x1 needle, which is going to be about 4.3 millimeters longer than the 15x1 needles that we're accustomed to using today. And then it's powered by that 0.8 amp motor, 0.82, I believe it was, or something like that. Lots of power, direct drive. All right, let's give this a try. All right, here we go. Oops, I don't have my, look at what I didn't do. Back to the basics. Look at my take-up arm. Bring that all the way up. There we go. Now we can launch. There we go. I think that's a good angle. All right, here we go. No problem whatsoever. No problem whatsoever. Just got the job done. Amazing. These rotary machines that are friction pulley driven are really quite spectacular when it comes to the power that they can deliver. Again, they're not losing any of that power with the loss of a belt slipping or something else like that. They just launch right into it and get the job done. So these are our 6 layers of denim that we just sewed. Show it to you from there. From there. We'll look at that top stitch first, and then we'll turn it over and look at that lock stitch. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful top stitching. Really, really lovely. That stitch is actually there. It's just kind of pulled down a little bit more. Kind of pull that back to show you. See that? It looked like there was no stitch there, but it actually was there. Just that it pulled a little bit harder and it kind of deepened that groove of that thread a little bit. And I'm looking at the length of the stitching, and I'm thinking that we could have even increased that pressure foot pressure a little bit more. We could have increased that pressure foot pressure even a little bit more than we did. But some really, really nice stitching. It looks like an invisible stitch right there. We'll take a look at that lock stitch now. Turn it around and look at that lock stitch as well. That's a lot of denim, folks. 6 layers of denim. That's a lot of denim. So I'm going to declare that a success as well. Top stitching. The lock stitching as well. And we'll move on to some leather now, finally. But so far, our sew-off sandwich with this 1940s rotary, we've already done, well, this was off camera. I did leather off camera, so I'm going to throw that to the side. Well, we've already done 4 layers, 2 layers of cotton, 2 layers of quilt batting, 8 layers of 100% cotton. We've done 2 layers of denim. And now we've just done 6 layers of denim as well. So we're developing a real nice sew-off sandwich. And now we're going to focus on some leather sewing. See how this machine does with leather. Again, it doesn't have the benefit of a universal needle that is going to have the anatomy of the needle set up so that it can accommodate a wide field of needles, of materials. This is going to be set up with a standard type needle that would have been used back in the day, the 1940s, 1950s, primarily to sew cotton and maybe some other fleece and lighter materials. It really wasn't designed for the application that we're taking it through today, but we're going to do our best to see if we can get through it successfully. First of all, we'll do some leather. And I also want to do some paper as well. I'll do some paper. Maybe I'll do the paper next. We'll do some of this parchment paper. So this parchment paper, again, is used as a packing material by Amazon. I think we did 12 layers the last time, if I remember correctly. So 2 layers, 4, 6, 8. Wait a second. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And a little bit of extra. But if you've never tried sewing paper before, they've got now in the craft stores, they've got a lot of vinyl paper choices. I've shown that to you before. Let me get this underneath the presser foot, and then I'll grab some of that vinyl paper to show that to you. Sewing paper has really become an art form, and it really has become a crafty area for a lot of people that want to try different types of stitching with their sewing machine. Some people even use it for bookbinding as well. So we'll see how this rotary does going through 12 layers of paper. This is some of that vinyl paper. You can buy it in a roll of, I believe it's 12 inches or so at the Dollar Trees. You can stitch it with your kids or your grandkids, and then you can peel off the back and you can actually put it up on display. Instead of being cut in a strip like this, you could cut it in a circle or a different shape. Let the kids try out the sewing machine, get familiar with it, get excited about it, create something, some sort of a tapestry on there with their stitching. And then you can put it up on a board in the sewing room so they can celebrate that every time they come in as far as their achievement in trying out and becoming more experienced with that particular sewing machine. It really is kind of a trophy that you can display for those younger people to get them excited about trying sewing out. So check out your local Dollar Tree or craft store, and you'll see it on display there, not just in a plain green, but they've got it in every imaginable color, patterns, and everything else. So you can create some really cool projects with younger people or older people for that matter. Doesn't matter. All right, so 12 layers of paper. Not easy, not easy. And I did not try this off camera, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully we have success. All right, so I got my hand over here on the knee controller. And now we're going to see if we can launch through these 12 layers of this parchment paper. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, here we go. Oh, wow. I didn't give it enough gas. It hit that paper and it just stopped. Did you see that? That needle hit it. You could hear the little hum, and that was it. So let me try it again. Let's try it again. See if we can get through it this time. I'll give it a little bit more gas over here. I think I gave it too much gas. Oh, beautiful. Wow. Sewing paper, you're going to fall in love with sewing on paper. I'm serious. You're going to fall in love with sewing on paper. The stitch definition you get is just off the charts. It really, really demonstrates the beauty of what that machine is doing. Lovely, 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 lovely. So again, 12 layers of parchment paper. See if the camera will focus on that for us. I don't know what you're seeing, but what I'm seeing is page 34 plus, page 24 plus, page anything plus. Ha ha. No, that really is page 34 plus. Spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And again, this is a pretty outmoded needle that we're using. It's a pretty outmoded needle that would have been designed primarily for cotton and light materials. And we're going through probably about 3 to 4 millimeters of paper. Beautiful stitching. Isn't that fun? Isn't it fun to try a new material and then all of a sudden just see how incredibly sexy your machine is with its stitch quality and its stitch presentation? Imagine that on a book binding. If you were binding little books for kids or something like that, storybooks, you could create some beautiful stitching on the binding with this type of paper, this type of material. So let's turn it over. I'll kind of turn it this way. You look at those 12 layers there. And now we're going to look at that lock stitch. And the lock stitch right away gives itself away, doesn't it? Because you can see that needle creating that little tuft of the paper as it passes through. Isn't that something? "12 layers of paper." Try it at home. Try it at home. It's not as easy as you might think. And if you shoot a little video, I'll post it on Facebook. That is something, isn't it? I really love the top stitching, though. The top stitching on paper is just something special. It truly is. So now we've gone through denim, we've gone through cotton, we've gone through 12 layers of parchment paper. It seems like the perfect time to do a little bit of leather sewing after we beat the daylights out of this needle. We beat the daylights out of this needle going through some pretty crazy cotton, 8 layers of that. We went through 6 layers of denim. We just went through 12 layers of parchment paper, the type of paper that Amazon puts in all their packages to protect the good stuff inside that you ordered. And now we're going to be going to some veg tan leather. If you look from the side, that's probably about 4 ounces of leather, right around 4 ounces of leather. It's not a light sew off. You can see the nap on the back of there. Beautiful leather sewing. If my friend Dusty formerly from Colorado, now out in the high desert of California, Dusty, if you happen to catch this video, I know you watch most of my videos. Just know that I know you're making magic out there in the high desert of California, making some beautiful veg tan leather projects for your celebrity friends. Maybe Johnny Depp needs another guitar type strap, or maybe you made something else for one of your other celebrity friends. So going to eventually make that trip out there and see you and Dawn out there in the high desert. And the reason I point to Dusty, who used to live in Colorado, a big follower and a fan of mine, and I'm a fan of his as well because he does beautiful work with industrial machines, and he's done some beautiful projects for different celebrities. He loves veg tan leather, absolutely loves it. So we're going to be doing some veg tan leather in Dusty's honor right now. We're going to try to go through a single layer to start, and hoping my needle, with it not being a Schmetz needle, hoping that needle will hold out and get the job done. So we'll do that, and you can see me right down here with my hand on the knee controller. We're going to do this without a hand start. We're just going to try to go through it. See how this machine does. And if you're joining us late, this is a 1940's GRAYBAR rotary machine. The GRAYBAR rotary would have been made by the National Sewing Machine Company out of Illinois. And the GRAYBAR company started out in Cleveland, Ohio, and then it moved to Chicago, Illinois, not at that point making sewing machines. And then they partnered with the National Sewing Machine Company to produce these beautiful machines for them, as the National Sewing Machine Company had done for hundreds and hundreds of other clients. And this one is powered by a 0.8 amp direct drive type motor because it has a friction pulley that goes right up against the balance wheel, and there's generally no slippage like a belt will sometimes do. So on launches, it generally does a very spectacular job. All right, so let's try to get this done. About 4 ounces of veg tan leather. And we'll stitch down this first of all with a larger stitch, and then we'll come back down it with a shorter stitch after that. Okay? All right, here we go. I'm going to slow it down just so you can see. Take it slower just so you can see that it can still make it through that leather. Even though we don't have the benefit of a universal or a leather needle, it can still get the job done very, very nicely and lay down some beautiful, beautiful stitching. We're going to do another shorter stitch on it next to this one, and then I'll show you both of those stitch lines. I don't know about you, but I'm impressed with what these rotary machines, and specifically this GRAYBAR rotary machine, is demonstrating during this live stream today. It's doing a spectacular job. All right, so I'm going to lower that presser foot down. Now I'm just going to adjust my stitch length a little bit over here. This again is our stitch length controller. Just going to move this up. Yeah, not a huge amount, right about to there. Now we're going to do another stitch line and shorten that stitch up just a wee bit. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Make sure my take-up arm's all the way up. Now we're going to go down this veg tan leather and listen to this machine run. I love the way it runs. It sounds like a locomotive, you know, to dum 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 dum, or like I said, like a Jake brake on a big tractor trailer semi. All right, here we go. And again, we're using a 20 by 1 needle. It is not designed really for leather sewing, but we're using it to do that anyway. Incredibly powerful machine, incredibly powerful. Like I said, if you were putting this from a motor size standpoint up against, say, a Singer 201-2, like I've shown recently in this temporary workshop, you would have to take one of those 201-2s and half of a featherweight and combine them to have the same motor strength that this GRAYBAR rotary has. 0.82 amps. 0.82 amps. All right, so let's take a look at this stitching, see what we think. And again, just take into account we're using a non-leather needle. We could increase the clarity of the stitch and the quality of the stitch even more if we went to a specialty needle with this machine. All right, let's take a look at the top stitch first. That's a gorgeous stitch, folks. Beautiful stitching. Look at the thickness right there from the side. I don't know what to say other than the only way we can improve on this is to maybe look at a different type of presser foot attachment and a specialty needle that is designed for leather sewing. Other than that, we are definitely at a solid page 34 plus. Absolutely a gorgeous stitch. Absolutely gorgeous stitch. We'll turn it over and look at that lock stitch now. Get real close so we can look at that nice and close. because that nap is going to mask it a little bit. Wow. Wow. Got to pull it back almost a little bit, don't I? Got to pull it back. Pulling it back now. Ha ha. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. I don't know if any of you have rotary machines or not, but if you've had them in the corner and you're using another type of machine, this might inspire you to pull that machine out. This might inspire you to pull that machine out. And that's the thickness we just went through right there. Unbelievable. So a beautiful sew off with that. That was a single layer. So far our sew off sandwich, if you joined us a little bit late, we did this veg tan leather. We did the 12 layers. Excuse me. We did the 12 layers of parchment paper. We did the 6 layers of heavy grade denim, 2 layers of heavy grade denim. What was this? 8 layers of 100% cotton. And then we also did this 4 layers, 2 layers of cotton, 2 layers of quilt batting, and laid down some beautiful stitching on that as well. And then off camera, I had done some leather sewing and some additional denim sewing as I was fine tuning the machine. So far on this needle, again, this 20 by 1 needle, we've done all of this on that needle already. And now we're going to be going into a little bit more of I think we might try 2 layers of this leather. I didn't try it yet, but we might try 2 layers of this leather. And then we're going to do our final sew off to the 1812 Overture. So let me see if I can cut this in half. And we'll buzz down this. It should be wide enough for me to sew, even as crooked as I generally sew. See if I can do a fairly decent job of cutting her down the middle. Yeah, the rotary machines are one of those forgotten machines where people are focused on a lot of other vintage machines, but the rotary ones, and partly, like I said, because they do have some maintenance issues that they encounter and electrical issues, and people are reluctant to try to get them repaired. And like my customer, Don, he went to 3 or 4 places that said, we don't do that type of repair when they looked at the wiring issues that this machine was facing. So sometimes it's there's just no one available to do the repair. You might remember that 12K hand crank from the 1800s that took that horrible fall. Susie and I were talking about this the other day, and that machine originally had been bought from Alex Askaroff over in the UK by a customer out in Virginia, and the top let loose. It fell to the ground and crashed. Alex said, that's not my area of specialty. Not a repair like that, where the case is busted, the machine has bent parts, and they have to be refabricated, remolded, and re everything. Send it to Scott. So, fewer and fewer of us are willing to take on difficult restoration projects. So if you have one of those machines, I'm not really taking machines right now, unless you're in the Twin Cities area. I might start doing a little bit of work for Joanne's over in whatever city that was. Susie knows the name of that city, but I recently visited there and had a great chat with the folks over at Joanne's, and they said that they have no one right now that can do the restorative work on the vintage machines. Their techs are not competent to do them. The rep basically said they don't have the knowledge. They don't know what to do. So if you're in that situation, if you're in the Twin Cities and you need work done right now, this would be a great place to meet and for me to take care of you. Otherwise, eventually be heading south and then you can ship your machine there. But this is what we're going to be sewing right now. I should say what we're going to attempt to be sewing. I hope we don't bend this needle. So probably I'd say that's about 10 ounces of leather, right around 10 ounces of leather. And again, I did not try this, so we'll see what happens. There's the voice of confidence right there. Let's see what happens. Give me a couple more turns on that presser foot pressure. Give us a little bit more pressure down, a little bit more of an edge. And I'm going to try this without a hand start, but I think I'm probably going to have to hand start it. And that's okay. But you'll be able to see the material right here. You'll be able to see the knee controller down here. You'll be able to see that I'm not reaching up. I'm not reaching up to the balance wheel. My hand will be down here. So we'll see if this motor is capable of doing that. We'll see if this machine is able to get through this much leather. I don't know if it will or not, because we're dealing with a needle that really isn't designed for this type of sewing. And again, if you joined us late, the needle we have in there is a 20 by 1. It's the one that's on the right. It's the one that's on the right compared to the standard Schmetz needle that's on the left. So we'll see if this 20 by 1 needle is able to get this job done. If not, I'll give it a little bit of a hand start. We'll see if we can get through it. All right, here we go. Let me first of all get this take-up arm all the way up. All right, keep your fingers and toes crossed. If we end up bending or breaking the needle, I'll put another needle in. I've got extra needles. And again, when we put that needle in, if we have to put that needle in, the flat side is going to go to the right towards the pillar. Okay. All right, let's give this a go. I'm going to give it a lot of gas, so we might launch kind of aggressively, and then I'll see if I can slow it down so you can see the power of that 0.82 amp motor is able to muscle its way through this much leather, even at a slower rate of speed. All right, here we go. Well, we made it through, and even though I increased the presser foot pressure, I could have bumped it up even further. I could have bumped it up even further because I'm seeing that we ended up getting a beautiful stitch, but it's very stubby. It's a very stubby stitch because all of that leather has to get fed over the feed dogs and underneath the presser foot. This presser foot design is a little bit slippery. It's designed for cotton. It's not designed for leather like this much leather. And that will compress the stitch length dramatically. That's kind of what we got. But we'll look at the stitches anyway and celebrate the fact that we got through it. That's really the big deal. So here's our top stitching. We'll take a look at that first. See how small that stitch is? That's a product of material feed because we're dealing with all that leather trying to get fed over the feed dogs and underneath the presser foot. But still a beautiful, beautiful stitch. Look at it like this too. So I think I would still give it a page 34, recognizing that it's a feed factor. The stitch quality, the formation, the stitch presentation, the stitch evenness is absolutely spot on. And the way we can improve the lengthening of the stitch so that we get a more full, robust stitch is we would have to bump up the presser foot pressure even higher and maybe look at a special presser foot attachment, maybe a roller foot, or maybe looking at a walking foot if we can find one that would be suitable for this rotary machine. And then we could lengthen these stitches out dramatically. But this stitch right now is pretty close to the length that a lot of quilters are looking for. It's going to be about 10 to 12 stitches per inch. And that's generally what they're looking for. So even when it's not at its normal length, it still could be applied to a number of different projects effectively. So let's turn it over now and look at that lock stitch. That again is the thickness of what we just went through right there. So our lock stitching. And again, we do not have the benefit of a leather needle. We don't even have the benefit of a universal needle. So the clarity and the quality of the stitch could be improved dramatically if we go to a specialty needle. Here's the lock stitch again. I'll show it to you vertically. I think it's a little bit easier to see it maybe. So lock stitching, let the camera focus. Top stitching. And that much leather. I would say that that's a huge success for a machine like this, especially considering our setup. We don't have the benefits of having a specialty needle that can get the job done more easily. So I'm going to get this leather into place now. And I just realized that I don't have the 1812 Overture recorded on my phone. Let's see if I can do that. (1812) Overture instrumental. Okay, I'm going to try to play it off my phone, see if that'll work. Let's see if that'll work. I'll have to save a copy of that on my phone from YouTube. The 1591 is not a rotary machine. It's an oscillating hook system on that one, Jenny. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this music. All right, here we go. I'm going to try to advance this a little bit further. I want to get towards the end. All right, this is going to be a challenge. I'm going to try to rotate this with one hand. Here we go. Hold on. I forgot to change the stitch length back. So we're going to have some short stitches to start and then regular stitches. All right, here we go. Let me clip those threads. One-handed is not ideal. Ha-ha! Oh, that's crazy. That's a little crazy to try that one-handed. I get high marks for craziness. Oh, I sewed over my own thread. Oh, well. Well, that was fun. That was very, very fun. Let me show you this stitching. Again, this is veg tan leather. Just a single layer, probably about 4 ounces. But some beautiful, beautiful stitching in spite of my awkwardness in trying to stitch along there. You see we've got some beautiful stitching on this 4 ounces of veg tan leather. If I had 2 hands, I could really, really do well with it. And then on the back, just ignore this little section right here where I sewed over my own thread before I cut it. But you can see especially I think on the back with the lock stitch, you can see just how gorgeous those stitches are. And again, not a leather needle and not a needle that was designed to do this type of sewing, but we're doing it anyway. Just because it's the way we roll at Cow Country, right? We're always pushing the limits and always having fun. So I appreciate you joining me today to celebrate this great machine that's going to be heading back to Wisconsin. It's going to be heading back to Wisconsin and getting back into the hands of Don and his wife, Don Sperl and his wife. Again, a 1940's GRAYBAR rotary machine that would have been used for mainly cotton sewing, household sewing, light sewing, not for some of the sewing that we did today, which again, to kind of recap it for you. Let me turn this machine a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. This machine with its 20x1 needle would not have been used for leather sewing, which we did. Leather sewing again. 2 layers of that. And you know what? I'm going to try this one more time and try adjusting that pressure foot pressure. I know that the culmination is our 1812 overture, right? But I'm going to try just one more time to see if I bump up the pressure foot pressure more, if we can lengthen that stitch without a specialty needle, without a specialty foot. All right, so hang with me for a second. Hang with me for just a second here. I got to try it. So this again is our 2 layers. I'm going to see if we can try it one more time, but I'm going to bump up that pressure foot pressure. I'm just really determined to see if we can do that. I give this about 3 or 4 more turns. Really, really ratchet that puppy down. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, let me try this again, see how we can do with this. See what impact we can bring. Again, it shows the power of pressure foot pressure. It shows the power of pressure foot pressure. Let's give this a try one more time. All right, here we go. No music. No, what the heck? We'll put on a little bit of music. Hold on. Here we go. Ha ha! Oh, yeah. Ha ha! Well, you all take care. And again, on Saturday, isn't that cool? Isn't that so cool? Oh, I love it. I love victory. I love victory. All right. Well, we've done a lot of sewing on this machine today. And on Saturday, I'm going to be showing you how to do some workshop magic. There I am. I'm going to be showing you how to do some workshop magic to a featherweight 221 and also show you some workshop magic on a 222K. And if anyone wants to see it, we'll take apart another foot controller for the 222K if you miss that live stream, and we'll try to service a foot controller during the live stream as well. But grab your featherweights out, grab your Queen of Singers, your 222K out, and I'll show you how to optimize that machine on Saturday. We have fun. God bless. Oh, and also I wanted to share a quick update. We've heard from Candido that Rachel made it through the surgery. She was in ICU, but now she's in recovery. So thank you for your thoughts and prayers for part of our family, Candido and Rachel, out in the great state of New York. And if any of you have any health issues or other things you want us to remember you, share it with us and let us know. We'll be happy to do that. Okay. We're family. We're family. God bless.